Using prescribed fire as a management tool at Virgil Phillips Farm, County Park by Rushton. The contents of this presentation are as follows: Introduction, methods, results, discussion. In this presentation, we will be talking about the benefits of using prescribed fire on a certain landscape. To start out, I would like to talk about the public view on prescribed fire. Fire is seen as a destructive force that ruins landscapes and even burns over homes. Because of this, many land managers are hesitant about using prescribed fire on the landscape. However, prescribed fire can be a very beneficial tool when managing ecosystems. This is especially true in fire-adapted ecosystems. These are ecosystems such as ponderosa pine forests that have adapted with thick bark so that a fire can burn through the understory and keep nutrients in cycle. Here, we will focus on Virgil Phillips Farm, County Park. Their goals are to decrease forest encroachment, restore historic wetlands, increase native species diversity within the prairie, and decrease forest encroachment into the prairie. All of these things can be addressed using prescribed fire. On to methods. The Virgil Phillips Farm, County Park, is located within the Palouse Prairie. This prairie was once very productive grasslands, which is now productive farmland. However, there is less than 1% of the native Palouse Prairie left on the landscape. Virgil Phillips Farm, County Park is one of these few areas, which is why land managers are working hard to make sure this is preserved. The methods used for this are a literature review, where I researched articles and summarized them to give land managers the best idea of how prescribed fire can help their landscape. And now, on to the results. Firstly, we will start with the forest. One management objective for Virgil Phillips Farm, County Park, is to keep a healthy, historic ponderosa pine savanna with open grassy understory. As stated earlier, ponderosa pine is a fire-adapted species with thick bark that helps it survive fires. As fires burn through the understory, it burns up thick grasses and brush and kickstarts nutrient cycling and allows for other species to come in, increasing the species richness within the forest. Other studies have found that ponderosa pine stands treated with fire had a lower tree density and a lower fire severity. All in all, prescribed fire is a great way to keep ponderosa pine forests healthy, fire resilient, and have a high species diversity within the understory. And now on to the wetlands. Another management objective is to restore historic wetlands. Using fire to manage wetlands may seem counterintuitive, but fire has a great impact on these areas. There has been research that says that fire affects the physical chemical processes by releasing mineral elements and increasing decomposition rates. Fire also affects the dry vegetative matter through recycling plants and increasing the amount of dead material. Fire may also kickstart the release of seeds, reduce competition, and stimulate vegetation production and flowering. Fire may influence wildlife within these wetland areas through increasing availability of food for herbivores or regulating insect populations. Fire may also reduce the age of vegetation, which helps fight against insects, parasites, and fungi. Wetlands react quickly to fire. This just means that land managers could see rapid results from prescribed burns. Reed canary grass was classified as a management concern and threat in the management plan. Fire was noted to have an effect on reducing reed canary grass on a landscape. However, the authors emphasize that it is important to choose the right time to burn. They found that the best time to burn was either late spring or late fall. If burning in these times, it is important to make sure that the native species have a seed bank that can take over as soon as the reed canary grass is gone. If fire is chosen to help mitigate reed canary grass, it should be carefully monitored to confirm that management objectives are being met. Lastly, we will discuss the results about the Palouse Prairie. As stated earlier, many ecosystems in the United States are fire adapted. A study was done on frequency of fire in the Palouse, and they found that fire was very frequent. In fact, historically, about every 5 to 8 years. This information was gathered from the General Land Office surveys and tree rings. Historically, the Palouse was no stranger to fire, and fire in prairies have been shown to increase plant diversity. One management objective relating to the prairie is to stop encroachment of forest into the prairie grasslands. One study conducted in southwestern Montana addressed a similar problem. Land managers noticed that Douglas fir was spreading into the grassland. After studying the historical regimes of the area, the researchers recommended that the land managers consider applying prescribed fire to the landscape. The impact of fire on the landscape kept trees in forested areas and not in grasslands. Therefore, prescribed fire could be a great way to stop this encroachment on the landscape that we are studying. Finally, the discussion. As discussed previously in this presentation, prescribed fire is beneficial for fire-adapted forests, wetlands, and prairies, and should be considered as a powerful management tool. Prescribed fire may decrease fire severity and stand density in ponderosa pine forests. It may increase the nutrient cycling and decrease disease in wetlands. Prescribed fire may support native fire-adapted species and decrease fire encroachment into the prairies. Fire should be considered when planning for land management, especially in the Virgil Phillips Farm County Park. Although this literature review is a good start, it does not cover all of the research about the advantages or disadvantages of prescribed fire. These studies and reviews cited are not always based in the Palouse Prairie, and the land may react differently. Because of this, all management actions should be carefully monitored to ensure desired goals and objectives are being met. If goals are not being met, more research and altering the management plan may be necessary. Monitoring plant species and densities to prescribe fire or other management actions should be an active part of any management plan. If there are any questions, feel free to email me at rush0271@vandals.uidaho.edu. Thank you.